More than 80 settlements in Russia's Kursk region are under Ukrainian control. What do we know about the operation so far? Ukraine launches its biggest drone strike, hitting 4 Russian airfields in one night. Fighters of the Khartia Brigade stopped another Russian assault in the Kharkiv region. Hi, I'm Eva Kucherenko. This is United 24 Media. Ukrainian Air Assault Forces shared a video of the very first hours of the Kursk Operation. According to the paratroopers, the careful preparation, planning and informational silence were crucial at the initial stage of the campaign. The footage shows mine clearing, a border breakthrough and the destruction of Russian equipment. 82 settlements in Russia's Kursk region are under Ukrainian control, stated the President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky. Among them is the border city of Sudzha. According to the Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky, it is considered cleared of Russian forces.
This is what the streets of the Russian border town of Sudzha in the Kursk region look like. The Ukrainian TV channel crew is met with desertion. But there are still civilians in the city. The armed forces of Ukraine provide them with humanitarian aid.
Russian forces just left, just like that. They hadn't even declared an evacuation. They just left. So many people left without any means for survival, no even water.
The Ukrainian Ministry of Reintegration established a 24-hour hotline for the Kursk region refugees with a possibility to seek evacuation into Ukrainian territory. Meanwhile, the city of Sudzha is considered demilitarized, reported Alexander Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
To sum up, from the start of the operation in the Kursk region, the Ukrainian troops advanced while skirmishing up until the Russian defense lines at the 35-kilometer mark. At the moment, Ukraine controls 1,150 square kilometers and 82 settlements.
At the same time as Russia's civilian population remains hidden in the basements left behind by its troops, those same troops are the ones surrendering to the armed forces of Ukraine.
Hundreds of Russian servicemen have already surrendered, and all of them receive humane treatment. They do not experience such treatment even in their own Russian army.
And Russian troops continue doing so. In particular, on August 15th, the Security Service of Ukraine managed to capture 102 Russian soldiers. The video was provided by the I Want to Live project. This service is designed to help Russian servicemen who don't want to participate in the Russian invasion of Ukraine to safely surrender to the Ukrainian forces. A recent staff meeting considered the creation of a military administration to help govern the humanitarian and peace aspects in the Kursk region in accordance with international law and conventions. Ukraine repeatedly asserts that the country does not seek to occupy any foreign land.
Unlike Russia, Ukraine does not need other people's property. Ukraine is not interested in taking territory, but we want to protect the lives of our people. I'll just remind you that since the beginning of this summer, more than 2,000 strikes have been launched from the districts of the Kursk region at the districts of our Sumy region. These include multiple launch rocket systems, cannon artillery, mortars, drones, 255 guided aerial bombs, and more than 100 missiles.
In the region of Sumy, preparations are underway as new fortification lines are being built. In particular, the workers here are erecting dragon teeth meant to stop any heavy armor from advancing. Alexei, a construction worker, was asked his opinion regarding the new defense lines.
Only God would know. I do not know if the fortifications are needed. God alone knows.
For now, 183 border settlements in the Sumy region have to be forcefully evacuated due to Russian aggression, stated Ukrainian Minister of Internal Affairs Igor Klimenko. There are people who decided to stay. Among them is Yuri, a farmstead owner. Despite his dairy farm being shelled by a Russian cluster bomb, which is, by the way, officially banned by the Convention on Cluster Munitions, he's not going to leave his home.
I've remained here for the past 3 years, whether there were strikes or not. I'm neither a migrant nor a refugee who flees. I stayed here on the ground. No maneuvers.
Russia must be forced into peace if Putin wants to continue waging war so badly, stated the Ukrainian president earlier. He underlined that it's only fair to destroy Russian troops where they are and where they launch their strikes from. According to Zelensky, such steps can be useful for bringing peace closer.
We see how Russia really moves in times of Putin. 24 years ago, there was the Kursk disaster, the symbolic beginning of his rule. And now we can see what the end for him is. And it is also Kursk, the disaster of his war. This always happens to those who despise people and any rules. Russia brought war to others, and now it is coming home. Ukraine has always wished only for peace, and we will definitely ensure peace.
Ukraine's operation in Russia's Kursk region created a real dilemma for Vladimir Putin, stated the US President Joe Biden. Answering questions from journalists, Biden also mentioned that over the last week he has been briefed on the situation every 4 to 5 hours.
It's creating a real dilemma for, and we've been in direct contact, constant contact with the Ukrainians. That's all I'm going to say about it while it's active.
Meanwhile, the White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby stated that if Putin doesn't like the ongoing Ukrainian advance in the Kursk region, he only needs to get out of Ukraine and end the war. Ukraine's actions in the Kursk region are defensive actions. This was stated by the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. He underlined that Ukraine has every right to defend itself against aggression.
What Russian troops and the Russian Air Force are doing in Ukrainian territory bears signs of genocide, inhumane crimes. And Ukraine has every right to wage war in such a way as to paralyze Russia's aggressive intentions as effectively as possible.
The Bundestag Defense Committee chairman advocates more Leopard tanks for Ukraine. Markus Faber says on his official X page that due to the Ukrainian advance against the invading troops in the Kursk region, the situation dictates a discussion to send more Leopard 2 tanks to help support the effort. The chairman also stated that the operation shows to the Russians that Vladimir Putin has no control and the military leadership is overwhelmed. Last week he noted that the Bundestag saw no issues with German military equipment being used on Russian soil. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Josep Borrell reaffirmed the EU's full support for the struggle of the Ukrainian people. He posted on his X page that he had discussion with the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry about the latest developments on the front line and the operation in the Kursk region. He underlined that Putin hasn't managed to break Ukrainian resistance against his unjustified invasion and is pushed now to withdraw inside Russian territory. U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham called Ukraine's operation into Russia's Kursk region brilliant and bold. He also urged the Biden administration to provide Ukraine with the weapons it needs. On August 12, Lindsey Graham visited Ukraine alongside Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal.
What I think about Kursk, bold, brilliant, beautiful. Keep it up. Putin started this, kick his ass. Bottom line is to the administration, I appreciate your support. Let these people fight. Give them weapons they need to win a war they can't afford to lose.
Today is one of hope. More hope than I've seen in any of the trips that I have been here. The breakthrough in Kursk on that front is historic. It is a seismic breakthrough. Good news, big news, promising even more potential breakthroughs.
Russia is experiencing troop shortages amidst the Kursk incursion, risking a new draft, reported Bloomberg. The shortfall may force Moscow to consider another mobilization, with two sources indicating that officials might present it as a measure to rotate and rest frontline troops. One of these sources suggested that a draft could be ordered as soon as the end of this year. Russia needs to keep pace with frontline losses, which are at their highest since February 2022, with more than a third of its recruitment quotas unfilled on average, reported Bloomberg. Russia digs new trenches and builds new defense lines in fear of Ukrainian advance in the Kursk region, according to the Institute for the Study of War. Satellite images clearly show new defensive trenches being constructed around and near the town of Lugov, parallel to the E38 highway, about 15 kilometers west of Kursk. Ukraine downed a Russian Su-34 fighter bomber, reported the General Staff of the Armed Forces. This happened in Russia's Kursk region in the early hours of August 14. The statement also reports that the Ukrainian forces are continuing their work in eliminating the occupiers, their equipment and their weapons. Russia's Emergency Situations Ministry declared a federal emergency in the bordering Belgorod region. According to the ministry, local authorities are providing assistance for the population, but the scale of the situation is out of control. He also reported issues with price increases for food and essential goods. Meanwhile, the Belgorod region is routinely used by Russian troops for launching attacks against Kharkiv. Ukraine imposes civil movement restrictions in the 20 kilometers area of the Sumy region due to the rising intensity on the battlefield in the cross-border Russian region of Kursk, stated the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In the statement, they also mentioned the possibility of Russian sabotage reconnaissance group activity in the region. The new restrictions are in place to prevent unnecessary civil casualties. Nearly 20,000 people have been evacuated from the Sumy region, according to the statement of the head of the Sumy military administration. Since August 6, 3,800 civilians, including 175 children, have been moved from 23 settlements due to the intensifying cross-border situation in the nearby Kursk region of Russia. A mandatory evacuation zone of 5 kilometers was set up in Sumy a year ago. The situation is exacerbated daily due to ongoing shelling from across the border. Ukraine launched its biggest drone strike, hitting 4 airfields in one night. In the early hours of August 14, Ukrainian forces targeted the strategic bases of the Russian Air Force. According to Ukrainska Pravda media, this was the joint operation of the Security Service, Main Directorate of Intelligence and Special Forces. Local residents of the Nizhny Novgorod region reported hearing at least 10 explosions at the Savoslayka air base. This is a regular takeoff point for Russian MiG fighter jets equipped with missiles that strike Ukrainian cities. SSU sources told Ukrainska Pravda that the airfields were a legitimate target since they provide strategic support for the Russian military units on the ground and terrorize the civilian population.
I would like to thank all our security service warriors, as well as the warriors of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, and all the structures involved. Thank you for the accurate, skillful, and effective strikes on Russian airfields. Our Ukrainian drones work exactly as they should, but there are things that cannot be done with drones alone. Unfortunately, we need other weapons, missile weapons.
Latvia is to send 500 drones to Ukraine as part of a drone coalition. As stated by the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Latvia, the package of 500 drones awaits delivery to the Ukrainian soldiers on combat missions. Ukraine has received 4.2 billion euros from the EU through the Ukraine Facility Program, aimed at supporting humanitarian efforts, critical budgetary needs and social programs. This was announced by the Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, who also highlighted the ongoing EU financial support with over 12 billion euros provided since the start of the year. Experts from the International Atomic Energy Agency visited the cooling towers of the occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to evaluate the effects of a fire that occurred on August 11. According to the statement, their inspection uncovered no remnants of tires or drones. For now, the team has not been able to draw any final conclusion about the causes of the fire. At the same time, the IAEA Director General noted that experts determined the fire originated from the base of the cooling tower. On the evening of August 11, President Zelensky stated that Russia started the fire on the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. He underlined that as long as Russian terrorists retain control over the nuclear plant, the situation is not and cannot be normal. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the incident had not compromised the safety of the nuclear plant, as there are no radioactive materials in the area located 1.5 kilometers from the reactor units. Alexander Lukashenko, the self-proclaimed president of Belarus, has commanded the transfer of combat unit military equipment to the Russian armed forces, reported by Belnovosti. This is a response to an urgent request from Russia due to losses and shortage of equipment both in the Kursk region and in other areas. Earlier, the Belarusian Ministry of Defense reported on the reinforcement of troops on the Homel and Mazar directions near the border with Ukraine. As soon as Russia invaded Ukraine, some Belarus citizens decided to defend Ukraine on the front line. United 24 Media spent a day in the trenches accompanying a unit of Belarusians who joined the Ukrainian army to withstand Russia's invasion.
Are you guys wanted in Belarus?
Well, yeah.
I've already even been sentenced.
For how many years? Lux, a journalist from Belarus, had to flee his home due to his activities against Lukashenko's regime.
Well, I was interested in journalism as a method of pressure and communication with the authorities. It has become a question of survival. Will my nation live or not? What will happen to my state?
Hasid left Belarus 15 years ago and moved to Kiev. Since then, he pursued a career as a tattooer, becoming one of the most recognized artists in the world. In spring 2024, together with Lux, he volunteered to join the fight. When did you make the decision to join the...
I guess just after my best friend's funeral. It was pretty a hard time for me when I understood that this is real. It's not only in YouTube, in Instagram, it's just out of my window.
Вот два кабеля в окно идут, видишь? Да. Слева кабель в окно заходит двойной, и справа кабель двойной в окно заходит.
Да. А зараз будемо торгувати наш FPV.
НК в небі.
Зараз дамо іншим дрончикам. Хорош, попав. Вроде попав.
Don't miss the full report on the United 24 Media YouTube channel. In the Kharkiv region, Russia launched a drone attack on a vehicle of the Hospitaliers Medical Battalion. One person, a volunteer medic, was killed. Her colleague and 3 civilians were injured. Hospitaliers reported that it was the last day of the rotation for the crew. According to the Kharkiv police, the attack happened in the village of Billy Kolodis, close to Vovchansk city. Military counterintelligence officers of the Security Service of Ukraine, in cooperation with the armed forces, destroyed a Russian radar system Kasta in the Zaporizhzhia region. According to the SSU, despite Russia's efforts to conceal, redeploy and camouflage the system, Ukrainian servicemen successfully located and targeted the long-range radar system, which is estimated to be worth around $60 million. Fighters of the Khartia National Guard Brigade, in cooperation with artillerymen of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, stopped another Russian assault in the Kharkiv region. As was reported, a convoy of Russian troops moved towards the positions of the Ukrainian army at 5 a.m. on August 14. Using early detection and planning, Khartia was able to stop and destroy the equipment. Paris Olympic champion Olga Kharlan auctioned her saber for more than $240,000 at a charity event. The collected funds will be used to purchase automated machine gun turrets. The Olympic Games held in France came to an end last weekend. Ukraine walked away with a tally of 12 medals. In the end, the women's saber fencing team led by Olga Kharlan, high jumping champion Yaroslava Maguchich, and boxer Alexander Khizhniak brought home gold medals. Although it was the smallest Olympic team in Ukrainian history, the gold medal wins are the highest in the last 12 years. That's it for today. We're United 24 Media. Thank you for being with us and see you next week.